Welcome, everybody, to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, where we bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. Companies going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities that are, really riding key trends, mega trends, and have multiple catalysts in place. And today we are back with Snow Lake Energy, LITM on NASDAQ, and Frank Wheatley, the CEO. Frank, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Frank, it's actually been very exciting since the last time that you were on. Look, the company is really undergoing a major transformation right now. We saw your press release yesterday. We're gonna talk about that, but I just want to give a backdrop. So look, you're becoming a major player in the nuclear space, and the nuclear theme is literally, it's going nuclear right now. I was watching this. There's a huge podcast with these like tech guys. It's called the All In Podcast. It's this guy Chamath, who's was a big hedge fund guy, who's really a tech guy. David Sachs, who's he's big VC. These are all billionaires basically, and they're very involved with tech, with Elon Musk. They're involved with that whole that whole circle, and with Trump now, and they're all talking about the electron shortage. This is the word they're using. There is an electron shortage because these guys are building out. I mean, they're involved with the EVs with Musk. They're building out these AI data centers, crypto. All these things have massive demand for electricity, and there's just we're running into production and production issues, right? Like there's just not enough electricity. We got to get the nuclear.
If you want to run an EV, if you want to run your AI model, you need electrons, and there aren't enough electrons in the world. Simple as that. So they're 100% correct.
No, it's crazy. I mean, look, Spain. Spain. There was a blackout. Was it last month for 2 days? They were sitting in the dark. Spain and Portugal, because they switched from nuclear, clean, safe, cheap nuclear to solar and wind, and it's not as reliable, right, or whatever. I think there's some major things that have happened since you were last on. We're going to talk about the Trump executive orders. That's a big tailwind. We'll get into all that. We got a lot of new people watching right now. We got a lot of new people. So for anybody that's new in the audience, can you just give us a kind of a quick snapshot of what Snow Lake is doing in the nuclear space?
Right. Okay. Happy to do that. Snow Lake, up until this point, has been an exploration and development company in uranium. We have two, what we would call district scale projects, one in Wyoming in the Powder River Basin, which, as your viewers know, is the most prolific uranium producing state in the US. We also have a potential district scale project in Namibia. Namibia, for those of your viewers who don't know, is the third largest global producer of uranium in the world. Yes, with the new US administration, they've been focusing on energy security, accelerating domestic production of critical metals. They have specifically included uranium as a critical metal. Now, on last Friday, President Trump issued 4 what we're calling nuclear executive orders. Essentially,
wait, Frank, I want to interrupt for 1 second, because a lot of the people in the audience, they may not know what district scale is. You're talking about Trump executive orders, and these are major projects. Like district scale in Trump's words would be huge and bigly. So these are huge projects. This is not even like these are like 40,000 50 square mile, 100 square mile projects, which could these
are large land packages with potentially large resources. On both of these projects, in both Wyoming and in Namibia, we know there's uranium mineralization there. We're not out wildcatting and looking for uranium. We know there's uranium mineralization there. We need to do the drilling to prove it up as to how much there is according to current mining codes, so we can determine the economics. But as you say, when I say district scale, it basically means large scale, potentially what some people call tier 1 assets, be it gold, silver, copper. We're talking uranium, potentially large scale, which have the potential to ultimately become a large scale producing uranium mine.
And I think the numbers we saw, again, these are the Australian, based on the Australian mining code, whatever, 50 million pound resource, basically. I think they
Exactly.
meant.
Exactly. If you
So
look at
50 million pounds is $5 billion, basically. It's close to 5 billion based on today's, roughly the resource. I mean, it's obviously be
sure.
worth a little bit less than that, but the whole thing potentially is $5 billion if you mine every pound of it.
Right. And looking at Pine Ridge, as you say, the exploration target is 50 million pounds. Just to put it in context, a 50 million pound deposit in Wyoming would be the second largest uranium deposit in Wyoming, larger than Cameco's projects, larger than UEC's projects. So that gives you an idea of the scale.
And what's interesting is the map that you showed last time. Your project in Wyoming, this Pine Ridge, is sandwiched. It's a major landmass, and you're right in between UEC and Cameco, like right in between
Correct.
I think one of Cameco's mines. So I mean, you're in the right space. Apparently, I mean, if they're there, you're right in between them. It's like a major package. So here's the thing. So uranium prices, have been on the rise, right? Again, I'm very bullish on uranium. I've been bullish on uranium stocks for a number of years. I think uranium is going to go to, I keep saying this, 308. That's going to be the number. We're, I think, in the 80s right now or something like that. So whatever this number is that you have of potentially, 50 million pounds, $5 billion thing, it could be worth $15 billion in, I don't know, maybe a few years, 1 or 2 years, the way things are going. Again, not saying it's going there, but the uranium market is, again, it's an explosive market, no pun intended. I interrupted you. You were about to start talking about the Trump executive orders. That's a major catalyst, by the way, major catalyst for the space. The uranium stocks went crazy.
100%. And just to set the stage, as I always say, there is a shortage of uranium in the world. The world needs more uranium mines, simply put. And now, dovetailing into the Trump nuclear executive orders, what the new administration wants to do is accelerate the deployment of nuclear reactors in the US, including SMRs, small modular reactors. They're looking to revamp the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and that's to reduce permitting from multiple years down to, I think, maximum 18 months is what they're talking about. So if this starts to get traction, SMRs start to be built, conventional nuclear reactors start to be built, you have to remember all the utilities in the US that run nuclear plants have been slow to do their long-term contracting. So you have all these ingredients that, in my view, are conspiring to ultimately set a fire under the uranium market and ultimate the uranium price. If all of these reactors that people want to develop in the US come to fruition, there's going to be a massive deficit in supply of uranium. Coming back to where we started off with our projects, we hope to develop those projects potentially into uranium mines to feed into the policies of the new administration.
But what's interesting is I noticed what's happened with Snow Lake is, the company is very different than what it was, a year ago, even 3 months ago. You're really, right now, you're undergoing this kind of transformation from being just a uranium explorer, which you might have been, 6 months ago. Right now, I saw in your press release, I love the way you describe it as a full spectrum player in the nuclear space, across the whole value chain, right? From the mining, from exploration
Correct.
to enrichment, actual reactors, the SMRs. I want to get into that right now. So really, this is a pure play nuclear stock. Snow Lake really is becoming it's not. You can't compare Snow Lake to one of these, uranium mines. This is really a nuclear pure play.
We're looking at the entire nuclear supply chain. It starts with uranium mining, it moves through enrichment, it moves through fuel fabrication, moves through nuclear reactor development, operation, and ultimately recycling of spent nuclear fuel. Yes, we started off in the uranium at the top end of the supply chain through our equity interest in GUE. They in turn have an equity interest in Uberian, which is a private Australian company developing an enrichment technology, next generation enrichment technology. And the most recent announcement of our collaboration with Exodus, this was originally announced back in January that we were looking to collaborate with them. Over the past 6 months, that has progressed to the point where we're in the process of setting up a specific purpose-driven company to focus on SMRs in particular. We're just putting together the final details on that company. We have a business plan, we have a team identified, and as we indicated, we hope to have all of that locked down, and we can announce that hopefully in the coming weeks, within the next few weeks or month, let's say. And I think what that will do is it demonstrates that we're starting to establish a footprint in various aspects of the nuclear supply chain. So as you say, full spectrum across the entire spectrum of the nuclear supply chain. So yes, we're evolving beyond just a uranium exploration company.
And I'll tell you what I like about the stock. I mean, there's a couple things I like about it just from the investor perspective. First of all, the chart looks great right now. The beautiful setup, to explode, to go nuclear. We're using all the puns today. And the other thing is you're sitting on, I think, was it 12 million plus in cash in the bank.
Yes.
The market cap of the company is like 30 million right now based on a $4 stock price. So really, in a way, the investors are getting almost the company for free, because when you look at these, the projects that you have in Wyoming and Namibia by themselves should be worth, I don't know, many multiples of that, I don't know, how much could they be worth? I mean, if you had to sell them for cash right now, I think they'd be worth more than 20 million, no?
Oh, I would think so. We're not trading much more than cash value, and you certainly, if you look at it on an EV basis, we're pretty much close to zero. So I think the stage is set with the tailwinds from the new administration for the entire nuclear uranium sector to move higher. I don't think there's any choice but for it to move higher over the next 6 months.
Frank, I want to ask you about the announcement yesterday, because I think that's actually really, really interesting in terms of you're entering a partnership. Basically, is it to build or develop these SMRs, these small scale?
We're setting up a purpose-driven company to focus on SMRs. So we're establishing that entity. We have identified a team that's going to lead that entity. We're locking down, hopefully, the final details of that team. We have the strategy, which is detailed in the press release regarding the type of technology we're looking for SMRs and why we're picking that sort of technology. So we hope to have all that locked down and announced in the next few weeks, hopefully within the next month. And I think once we get that announcement out, it'll be clear that we do intend to be a serious player in that part of the nuclear supply chain. I think the resumes of the team that we're looking to bring on board will speak for themselves. So we're very excited to hopefully get that locked down within the next month. And that will establish a footprint in the SMR portion of the nuclear supply chain.
Yeah. So, one of the hottest stocks in the last, year or so has been, was an SMR. These guys, I guess they're doing these reactors. For anybody that's new, can you tell us a little bit about how that works? Like, how do you set one of these things up? What does it cost? How do you make money with a nuclear, SMR?
Ultimately, any nuclear reactor, be it full scale, old style, or SMR, generates electricity, electrons. So essentially, the purpose of SMRs is they're smaller, they're modular, they can be located closer to where data centers. They're not dependent on being tied into the grid. So a lot of the big tech companies, the Amazons, the Googles, the Metas, are looking at nuclear, number one, to provide safe, reliable 24/7 power, which they need for their data centers and AI. But the advantage of SMRs is they can be located adjacent to data centers. So you're not necessarily geographically constrained where you have to be located where you can tie into the existing electrical grid. So the whole purpose of modular is that they're small, they can be moved around. So it provides flexibility is what it does. But ultimately, it generates electricity. The demand, you can look at any number of predictions as to the demand for electricity. People are talking about it doubling, tripling by 2040, 2050. Ultimately, where is that electricity going to come from?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much more, because listen, if we're transitioning to EVs, everybody's pushing for the EVs. You got AI, crypto. I mean, everything is just there. The demand for electrons is literally, it's going off the charts. What are the economics of these SMRs like? You know, what are they? How do you make money with this? You sell them, you lease them, you like, how do you? Let's say you make an SMR, you sell one to Google, or what do you do with it?
Well, you've noticed that the big tech companies are actually investing in companies that are building these SMRs. So there's multiple paths, if you will. There can be direct investment from tech companies, but ultimately the product that the SMRs produce is electricity, electrons. You're selling electrons. And with the rather insatiable appetite of these data centers and hyperscale data centers, the demand for electrons continues to increase. Ultimately, the price of electrons is going to have to go up if there's limited supply. But the bottom line is, it's a business selling electrons for a profit.
Okay. Very interesting. What are the next steps in terms of this SMR partnership that you're doing?
Next steps, as I say, just finalizing the details of this single purpose company, bringing the team on board, getting the initial funding, which we will provide to the company. So we hope to get all that locked down and set up, as I say, within the next month, and then we can provide the details of the team and the strategy and the time frame going forward. So it's very exciting, and what we wanted to do is give an update to the market on the heels of the 4 nuclear executive orders, because we thought it was timely to give an update, since we haven't mentioned anything about it since January. But we've been working conscientiously behind the scene to get this set up. Ironically, we're on the cusp of getting it set up and launched on the heels of the new executive orders from the administration. So we certainly think that these executive orders are going to provide rocket fuel to the entire nuclear space. No pun intended.
No, yeah, we got okay. So we got a great question from Darren. This is coming from X. Oh yeah, this is the first time we're getting one of these questions from. Usually we get it from YouTube. So Darren is asking, great question. The potential is clear, but what will be the catalyst for significant stock movement? This is what we're talking about here. We got multiple catalysts. You got catalysts. Frank, let's talk about all the catalysts, because I think what the audience wants to know is, why should they buy the stock today, right? Like, so what are the catalysts? You got the drill results coming in from the mining projects in Namibia and Wyoming,
sure.
Right?
Well, I think there's, again, if you sort of look at it as the entire nuclear fuel cycle, if you will, if you look at the uranium portion of it, we have 2 projects that we're drilling right now. The catalyst for those 2 projects are initial resource estimates by the end of 2025. We're doing the drilling now. We hope to have the resources by the end of 2025. If you look at the enrichment piece, which is the indirect ownership through the Zuberian private company, Urenco, which people will know as the 2nd largest enrichment group in the world, has made an investment into Iberian. They've put 5 million in for a 13% stake, and their intention is to try and commercialize that enrichment technology. Moving on to so there's a catalyst there as they continue to try and commercialize that technology. Moving on to the reactor SMR space, as I've indicated, once we announce the establishment of this single purpose company and the team and the strategy, we think that will speak for itself.
Yeah, so basically there's multiple catalysts in place right now, I think. And what I like about this is that, again, unlike, companies just that are in the mining exploration space, etc., you're not tied down to just drill results. In other words, you have a lot of, actual businesses that are, are going to be producing, some, exciting news flow probably in the coming weeks.
To use a Canadian hockey analogy, we have multiple shots on goal, if you will. And again, I sort of tie it back to the spectrum of the nuclear industry. We have an established footprint in the uranium space, a small footprint in the enrichment space, and we're looking to establish a bigger footprint in the SMR space. So those are multiple shots on goal, if you will, multiple options, multiple catalysts, if you will.
Right, and it's great, and that's actually exactly what we look for kind of in our next super stocks. We're looking for those companies, again, obviously big market potential, market opportunities, but there's got to be multiple catalysts, near-term catalysts. There's got to be potential upside surprises, which I think you have potential upside surprises, which we're not even talking about. You have something which is trading at a pretty compelling stock price. Again, there's 12 million in cash. You got major assets. The market cap is only 30 million. I mean, that's pretty compelling. I think the comps in the space are much bigger. And again, these projects, these district scale projects, they could be huge. And again, you're in the SMR space, which could be really interesting. I mean, the SMR space by itself could be worth. I mean, your SMR business could be worth a multiple of what Snow Lake's market cap right now. I mean, just that one aspect of the business, even the enrichment business, which could be huge.
Look, I don't think you can underestimate the effect of these executive orders, particularly with respect to permitting, from both the mining side at the upper end of the spectrum to the SMR side at further downstream in the spectrum. One of the big hangups for both of those aspects has been permitting. But what you're seeing with these executive orders is an attempt to streamline the permitting. So with a revamp of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to require decisions on SMRs within 18 months, that dramatically reduces the time frame to put one of these projects into production. Similarly, on the mining side, the Department of the Interior has announced an intention to reduce permitting requirements on the environmental side from 2 years down to 28 days. And ironically, yesterday, I forget the name of the company, but the Department of the Interior approved a uranium mine in Idaho based on that 28-day review. So even though even though the executive orders have been issued at the highest levels of government, it is already filtering down through the bureaucracy. And this announcement yesterday is the first concrete example in the uranium space in the US of actually implementing these policies. So I think you apply that to the SMR space. You've got some of the larger players in the SMR space, the Oklos, the TerraPowers. They are going to benefit, as well as everyone else, from reduced permitting timeframes. That is one of the biggest roadblocks to generating more electrons, is permitting. But certainly the new administration, the current administration, is removing those roadblocks by reducing the permitting, which allows people to build and sell electrons.
I mean, somebody was asking about catalysts. This is the biggest catalyst, because like we would not even be having this conversation if this was like, I don't know, 2 years ago, whatever. Like, this is the game changer. I mean, Trump is the game changer for nuclear in America. Basically, this is like we're going through a nuclear renaissance. This is going to be a generational wave. This is not just going to be, this is going to go on, because once it gets going, it's just going to, people are going to realize, and once they get a taste of those electrons, they're not going to want to give it up. I mean, it's like big tech is not going to want to give up, a reliable source of clean, cheap energy, basically, which otherwise they got no other options.
NVIDIA made its earnings announcement yesterday, and again, the demand for their chips is going up. It's being driven by data centers. It's being driven by AI. So if you look at just NVIDIA and the demand for their products, ultimately, you need electrons to run all of that. So the Amazons, the Googles, the Metas, they need to buy electrons, and they are turning to nuclear. And I think what the new administration has done is removing a lot of the roadblocks to actually getting nuclear deployed in the US. I think that's the biggest takeaway from, and it's actually starting to happen on the ground. There's concrete examples of where that policy very quickly is turning into reality on the ground.
No, it's, again, I can't use the word game changer enough when describing this. But I think one of the things that we talked about early on, when you first came on our program, was the fact that, LITM, Snow Lake, really is, I mean, that is a great way for anybody to play sort of the tech boom, the AI boom, this whole new kind of generational mega trend, because again, all these things, whether you're talking about crypto, AI data centers, EVs, they all need electricity, and the only way to supply that is going to be through nuclear, through companies like Snow Lake. So, you know, instead of somebody making a bet on something which is, you know, really volatile, like let's say an Nvidia or Tesla, whatever it is, you know, with one of these nuclear stocks like Snow Lake, you're basically you're making a bet across the board because they all need the electricity. It doesn't really. It's like, you know, it's like in the gold rush. In the gold rush, you're the guy selling the picks and the shovels and the pans. You don't need to go out and, you know.
Well, when people want to plug their data centers into the wall to turn them on, they don't realize where the electricity is coming from, and that's the nuts and bolts that we're playing. We're one of the support pillars for that whole industry. Ultimately, that's the ultimate strategy by expanding our footprint across the entire spectrum of the nuclear supply chain.
Excellent. Okay, I think we've gotten a quick update. I don't see any more questions. Frank, thank you again for the update. I guess before I wrap up, what other kind of news flow can we expect in the next couple of weeks, next 30 days? Anything that we should keep an eye out for?
Probably the next cab off the rank is once we lock down all the details on this new reactor company. We hope to have that within the next month, let's say, hopefully sooner. We'll certainly, as I say, announce the formal creation of that company, bringing the team on board, detailing the strategy and the technology and the funding that we need to move forward. And we think that will certainly establish us as a legitimate player in that segment of the nuclear supply chain.
Okay, so the SMR business is going to be really the big driver of news flow over the next. That's going to be the key driver of news.
And yes, we're currently drilling on the 2 uranium projects as well. So we will have drill results coming out sort of between now and the end of the year as we set up to have those initial resource calculations by the end of the year. So yes, from the uranium side, from the SMR side, the enrichment side obviously is in the hands of Urenco. So we'll just watch that, but they're the second largest enrichment company in the world. They know what they're doing. We'll let them do their work and see if they can't move the commercialization of Uberan's technology forward.
Okay, yeah, no. So this is basically multiple shots on goal here. Over the next 60 days, we'll have news flow from the uranium projects, Wyoming and Namibia, the drill results. You get the SMR news. So there's a lot of stuff for investors to look forward to. Okay, Frank, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Great questions, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Thank you very much.